So it looks like Classic has released some information. We got a couple articles today, actually. It says, WoW Classic Season of Mastery coming soon. Greeting adventurers. WoW Classic Season of Mastery is coming, giving all players a chance to start fresh and a level playing field. This time around, we're planning on hashtag slightly more changes. We will launch new WoW Classic realms for Seasons of Mastery. These realms will invite new and current Classic players to begin fresh at level 1 for a complete reset of WoW Classic content, starting again at the very beginning of the World of Warcraft saga. I know already it's looking good. This is actually what I asked for the first time, where they needed to come up with a plan. But let's see what they say. So far, sounding good. I mean, I would prefer just new content in the Classic, like a Classic pipeline type content, but we'll see how this goes. It says, at the first release of WoW Classic, we're planning 6 content release phases. In WoW Classic Season of Mastery, however, phase unlocks will happen faster. We're planning for a 12-month Candace, with phases unlocking roughly every couple months. Here's the current outline of the 6 phases. In Phase 1, Season of Mastery's launch, so you're going to have Molten Core, Nixia, and Muradin, and the PvPs will go from phases 3 and 4 and up. Okay. So the honor system will be implemented there. And phase 2, we would get Diamond Kazak, basically. Phase 3, that's when we'll get Blackwing Lair. I mean, you get some Darkmoon stuff, which is fine. But basically, the importance of Darkmoon Fair is the decks, right? The Darkmoon decks. Phase 4, Zul'Grub, the Green Dragons. Phase 5, AQ. And then finally, phase 6 is Naxxramas. It says the original release of WoW Classic was made to recreate the difficulty and challenge of patch 1.12 or 1.12, excuse me, from the original World of Warcraft release. While we strive to bring a faithful recreation of that release, many raid encounters turned out to be easier than the first time around. That's an understatement, let me tell you. Players simply were way more experienced and prepared, and patch updates greatly increase player power. With that in mind, we're planning a few changes to make those early raid boss packs a bit more of a punch, and attempt to recapture the original challenge they presented. These changes currently include, but not limited to, world buffs like Rallying Cry or Dragon Slayer and others disabled in raid instances. Now, this is huge. One of the most annoying things that I hated about the WoW Classic experience was the raid logging or buff farming and all that stuff. That was the stupidest thing. I understand, like, you want to kill the boss, in 1 minute versus, if you kill the boss in 1 minute 30, it's so bad, and killing it in, 1 minute. It was so stupid. Restoring mechanics that were removed earlier to some raid bosses. I wonder what that means. I'm assuming probably harder mechanics. No boss debuff limit up to, okay, this is really good too. That's really going to change something there. So they're going to remove the debuff limit in Classic, which is big. Increase health on bosses to offset player buffs and to remove the debuff limit. Okay. It says, our intent with these changes is to experience the feel somewhat more challenging than WoW Classic did in 2019. And it continues. It says, due to Seasons of Mastery's faster content release cadence, we are planning several improvements and changes. These include faster leveling. Thank God. It was the dumbest thing ever. Like, the leveling experience, man, that was just stupid. I mean, we still leveled pretty fast in Classic, but I do wish that there was like a token or something you could buy, just hit 60 and move on. And that's because, I've been playing World of Warcraft for 15, 16 years at this point. Dude, I'm tired of leveling. Like, I'm over it. It says, we're planning on increasing experience gains from what they were first iteration of WoW Classic. Our current plan is to set them close to what 1 to 6 XP rates are in Burning Crusade Classic, with a bigger focus on quest XP increases. Good. That's good. In addition, we're planning on introducing certain improvements that weren't in the original WoW Classic release. But that we can think can help create a better experience, such as meeting stones converted to summoning stones. Thank God. Increased mining and herbalism nodes. Good. Realms tend to be more densely populated in WoW Classic compared to the original 2005 design. Increasing gathering node spawn should provide a more consistent economy this time around. Perfect. It says the WoW Classic Season of Mastery will have an open beta beginning October 5th. So starting today, that would be next Tuesday. We look forward to hearing your feedback on these changes. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Well, what's my opinion on it, right? How you doing, love? Welcome back to the channel, dude. We'll get ready to play some games here in a second. My opinion on it, I think it's good. One of the biggest problems that I thought WoW Classic had originally was the content was far too easy. And I know everyone talked about how difficult it was, but most people don't realize is back in that time, especially around 2005, 2006, 2004, most people were just starting to experience like true internet gaming. You know what I mean? Like prior to that, you had some experience maybe with like Xbox Live, whatever. And even that was extremely limited and like rudimentary. And like World of Warcraft, even though there was MMOs prior to WoW, I would say the overwhelming majority of people didn't really experience internet until about World of Warcraft. So, and the reason why I bring that up is a lot of people just didn't have computers for it. Most people were playing on whatever potato they had that their mom owned. I mean, I remember when I first started playing World of Warcraft, I literally played on this HP laptop that my mom had, and that thing would get so hot. Like, it was insane. Not to mention no one knew how to play the game. So things were things were much more difficult than they were supposed to be. I mean, I was running around with a shuriken of intellect. I played a rogue, and I thought someone told me that, int increases your crit chance, so put int on. So I did, and I didn't know any better. And you did raids, and no one really corrected you. But prior to that, we've gotten a lot smarter. And bosses have gotten a lot more complicated. So when we talk about how bosses are now compared to what they were back then, I mean, it's vastly different, right? One of the biggest changes I would say for a lot of boss fights is, back then the boss fights were really simple. It was basically don't stand in the fire, don't get cleaved by the dragon, so on and so forth, and you could easily beat the boss, right? Like, I would say they didn't even really measure like health pool to damage on the boss. So what I mean is, like, no one really knew about rotations back then. And so as soon as everyone went back to Classic, it was the easy stuff. I mean, when a game is easy when the end bosses are dying to people who are not even max level, right? Like, Ragnaros fell with like a few 60s in the group. I think it wasn't even 40 people, right? And a lot of them weren't even 60. And it wasn't about so much who can kill the final boss as it was who could kill the final boss the fastest. And it's kind of turned into more of I do think this will create more of an elitist feel, but I think that's the group of people who currently play that game are people who are super elitist, and that's fine. There's totally a place for that. But it definitely killed the game for me, especially the thing that really killed the game, for me, at least for Classic. It wasn't even so much the elitist part of it, because like I said, I ran a guild for many years. I competed for world first and server first. So that really wasn't an issue. The issue I had was because the game was so easy, there was more work in making sure you had all your raid buffs, and trying not to die to the rogue that would gank you after you've gotten your world buffs. Now, I know that since then they've made changes to where, you can keep your world buffs and stuff and protect your world buffs. But you have to remember, I started playing the WoW Classic Reborn, whatever you want to call it. I started playing that, when it first came out. So that wasn't there yet. That didn't came out until much later in the game. So overall, I think it's good. I would rather see more content along the lines of Classic, like maybe like some forgotten raids they didn't do, or maybe adjust the talent points, introduce some new mechanics, which I think they said they're going to do that. So that's pretty good. How you doing, Ziz? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's good. We'll have to see what happens. The beta starts next week. I'm sure certain people will be invited. I am not one of those people. And I think it's pretty good overall. It's kind of like the Diablo 3 community right now where, people who play Diablo 3, you essentially reset every single season and you try to get to the end as fast as possible. And I think that's the base that's currently in Classic. And so I think it's good for them. So we'll see how it plays out. But that's my opinions of it.